Thanks for launching the digital edition of Nightsounds with Bill Pearce. We trust that Bill's commentary will be a source of hope and encouragement during these times. After you listen to this online webcast, please consider a generous contribution to offset costs. Supporting Nightsounds on this platform is easy. Just click the Donate tab. We hope you are blessed listening to this Nightsounds program.
Well, you're looking well tonight. How do you know you can't even see me? That's true. But you know, some of the things you can't see, you can envision other ways. Welcome to Nightsounds. I'm Bill Pearce. Interesting, this is an age of superlatives. We go to extremes and adjectives and our expressions and definitions and descriptions of things that are probably commonplace or nice or a little unusual. We'll call them incredible, fantastic, outstanding. One of the ones that I've always wondered about, even though it's fun to say, in our expressions of wonderment, is, man, that is out of sight. I guess that means it's so far out that we can't even describe it. Tonight we're dealing in our topical material with the subject of invisibility. And I have decided to subtitle our time together, Out of Sight. Come to think of it, there's an old hymn was written years ago by a woman who was physically blind. But in the lyrics of her song, she described sight. Not physical sight so much as spiritual sight, looking ahead, where you can't see anything, but you just know it's going to happen. I think you'll remember this one. Don Wurtzen Chorus and Orchestra, one of the old ones, Turn Your Eyes Upon Jesus. Sort of a mystical saying for someone who'd never heard that kind of language before. What do you mean, turn your eyes? I can't see anything. Am I supposed to imagine it? Well, in a sense, yes. There are a lot of things we can't see tonight. But we know they work. We may not even understand them if we could see them. I often use this control board in front of me, and not to mention the equipment on either side. What's underneath these knobs and buttons and switches and attenuators? The compact disc, machinery over here, the cassette recorders, the turntables, tape recorders, the master machine we're broadcasting on right now. I have my background coming off of another recorder. I don't know what's behind this microphone if I were to take it apart. I can't understand. I can't see it. And even if I could see it, I couldn't quite make heads and tails of it. Over in the book of Hebrews in the Newer Testament, the writer was speaking of Moses back there in history. And he used two words as he began his speech in verse 24 of Hebrews chapter 11. Those two words are by faith. That's one way to see when we're dealing with the invisible, something that's totally out of sight. And the writer says, by faith, Moses left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. And that's got to be a contradiction of terms there. It's a paradox. How do you see someone who's invisible? Well, these two words come up as we continue the sentence, by faith. By faith, the people passed through the Red Sea as on dry land. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell. By faith, Rahab, because she welcomed the spies, was not killed with those who were disobedient. These were all commended for their faith. God had planned something better, but we can't see it yet. I remember in the service years when it seemed so many months we were overseas, we feared it would never be finished. But the day finally came, and how many GIs, I guess they still call them that. GI means government issue, and they used to describe service people as GIs. Anyway, how many GIs used to lie in their bunks after hours and imagine what it would be like to be home soon again. By faith, seeing the invisible. Tonight's program entitled Out of Sight. Believing in something you can't see. Prayer. This is something we engage in. I went to see a physician the day before this recording was made, and he told me some rather distressing news, at least the overtones were. And he said, well, we'll try this and see what happens. And I said, sir, would you mind if I went over your head and prayed about it? He sort of looked up quickly and smiled and said, I'll take all the help I can get. But in a sense, I was depending on something I couldn't see. I'd like to make a comment here out of a book with a rather strange title. It's What They Never Told Me When I Became a Christian. This volume was written and co-authored by three people, Vern Becker, Tim Stafford, and Philip Yancey, good writers. And in this particular item, Tim Stafford was saying, prayer. He was reflecting on Christians that he had known. He said, the Christians I knew distorted events to make everything look like an answer to prayer. If an uncle sent an extra $25 for school bills, they'd grin and shout and call a prayer meeting to thank God for it. When some people on campus were sleeping off the night's activities, the super Christians would sneak out of their rooms at 6:30 a.m. for a prayer meeting. They seemed to take these answers to prayer as final proof that God was right out there somewhere listening to them. I could always find some other explanation. Maybe that uncle sent all his nephews $25 this month, I'd say. Some of the nephews aren't Christians. Was yours the only gift that answered a prayer? They never discussed the frequent times God ignored their specific requests. Prayer to me, said Tim Stafford, was a foolish activity. Of what use was talking aloud to the walls, talking with someone you can't see? He said, I began attending the prayer meetings, and I even went to some of the early morning eye-proppers and imitated whatever the best Christians did. I learned the key to acceptance was a ritual called giving your testimony, in which your voice took on a soft, sincere tone, and you told of some way the Lord had blessed you or spoken to you. And after a few weeks, I was one of the best testimony givers of the bunch. I could often bring the group to prayers of thanksgiving or beckon tears from their hungry, searching eyes. Meanwhile, I'd race back to my dorm after these sessions and tell my real friends how thoroughly I was hoodwinking all the Christians. In my mind, I had devastated their faith. However, these are the words of Tim Stafford, the author of this piece. He said, however, a strange thing happened about a year after all of this. It would have been humiliating and embarrassing had it not been so overwhelmingly delightful. I actually became a Christian. God really did meet me in an amazing, undeniable way, at a time when I wasn't even looking for him. In fact, while I was hotly denying him, he appeared to me in my heart. And he showed me his love and forgiveness, and I was converted, turned around. How can I describe this experience to my skeptical friends? How do you describe a world of color to someone who can't see color? Well, I'll leave the narrative right there. We don't always have to see things to realize the actual substance and reality of them. Have you ever met someone and you couldn't see their qualities? You only were impressed by the outward appearance or their first moments that either depressed you or impressed you. But as you became more familiar and got to know this person, he or she turned gradually into a good friend. Unexpectedly. That happened to me right in Rockford, Illinois. The most unseeming person I saw from a distance. In fact, I thought he was a little bit corny and nerdish. But you know, this man turned out to be one of the most deep, meaningful, authentic, absolutely credible Christian I had ever met. And I went to lunch with him yesterday, and every time I'm with him, I absorb pure gold. I didn't see this at first, but it began to appear not in physical sight, but within me. Emotions. Let's keep our eyes open for the unexpected and the invisible. It may be out of sight.
When the dark closes in so hard I can hardly see, and the walls of my fortress of faith crumble in me, and when it seems like the end, and not a measure of strength to spare, I feel the arms of a stranger rescue me. La 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 never asking where I've been. Just a hand of mercy and words of love call me back again. Oh, it feels like home with unexpected
Sandy Petty, the song Unexpected Friends. My father used to tell me, son, expect the unexpected and you won't be surprised. All of us who are Christians believe in the invisible world, a world that's out of sight. We get consumed by the visible world of arguments, relationships, jobs, schools, even the religious world of church and prayer meetings. Maybe if Jesus were standing visibly in the flesh beside us, saying phrases like, I saw Satan fall. The world we live in is not an either-or world. The actions I do as a Christian, praying, worshiping, loving, broadcasting, are not exclusively supernatural or natural. They're both working at the same time. Tonight in our program, Out of Sight, let's remember, as reminders of the supernatural world, we are given God's Spirit, who permanently dwells inside of us. We can't see Him, but we can see evidences of Him. We're given the good counsel of the Bible and fellow Christians, authentic, sincere, real ones, who affirm that there is another world. Tonight, you and I are immortal beings. Most of the reality is unseen. In 1 John, chapter 3, we read these words in verse 2, Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But we know that when He appears, we shall be like Him, for we shall see Him as He is. So someday, we're going to see with 20/20 plus visible. Paul the Apostle said, now I see as in a glass darkly. Everything's fuzzy. If I take my spectacles off right now, I can see everything. But it's fuzzy. It's not clear. I'm myopic and astigmatic, so I need correctional lenses. Someday, we'll see it all, and we'll know it all. Meanwhile, it's out of sight, isn't it? One of the favorite songs of retrospect, as we look back, seeing everything finally, songs like these come into more authentic meaning. Dave Boyer to close our time together tonight with one of the old ones by now. Jesus led me all the way, as I look way, way back in retrospect. Let's listen again.
Someday life's journey will be o'er, and I shall reach that distant shore. I'll sing while entering heaven's door. Jesus led me all the way. Jesus led me all the way. Led me step by step each day. I will tell the saints and angels as I lay my burdens down. Jesus led me all the way. hitherto my Lord has led. Today He guides each step I tread, and soon in heaven it will be said, Jesus led me all the way. Jesus led me all the way. He led me step by step each day. I will tell the saints and angels as I lay my burdens down. Jesus led me all the way. Jesus led me all the way.
Dave Boyer, Song of Invisibility, looking back in retrospect, then seeing clearly. Jesus led me all the way. I'd like to take just a couple of seconds here to remind you that this is Nightsounds, and I'd be delighted to hear from you. Our email address is nightsoundsradio@aol.com, and join us on our website, if you would, nightsoundsradio.org. The poetess wrote, "Let me look beyond the burden weighing heavy on my heart. Lord, I know you have a blessing that you're waiting to impart. When I only see the burden and forget your offered grace, then is it any wonder that I cannot see your face? Lord, help me shift my focus from my present load of care to fix my sight on you instead, the God of answered prayer." Tonight's program, Out of Sight. We're dealing with invisibility. Even now, I can't see you. I sense you're there. Most likely, we'll hear from many of you. Tim Stafford wrote, "I'm strong enough to believe that on my own sometimes I can't see, but I feel very much a part of the battle. At other times I forget and must be pressed back to God, to His Word, to the helpless dependence on Him and His followers here on earth. Sometimes I remember the invisible world clearly. I can sense its existence so strongly that it seems more real than the visible world, and this quality of faith allows me to believe. The quality that the book of Hebrews defines as being sure of what we hope for and certain of what we do not see." Chapter 11, verse 1. So, in a sense, the reversal of that old adage would be believing is seeing. Through the eyes of faith, and we'll soon have 20/20 vision and be able to see it all. You know, it occurs to me that even with 20/20 vision right now, we are so limited. None of us can imagine what spiritual sight will be like in that day when we're with the Lord God. Let's rest on that, on His credibility and on His promise, that we shall see and know as we are known. Thank you so much for being there tonight and for joining me and for being out of sight. I enjoy radio because you don't have to prove anything visibly. Our mailing address, Nightsounds, Wheaton, Illinois, 60189. Till next time, let's just rest our case and our weight upon the God who's invisible and trust Him. God bless you. Until we meet again, and I'll see you then, okay? Until that time, a peaceful good night.